I hope that people come to know the Meta brand and the future that we stand for.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 companies that changed their name.
Can't wait to see what's next.
For this list, we're looking at notable times when companies rebranded or altered what they called themselves. What do you think of these name changes? Were they a good idea? Are there any we missed? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, Pete's Super Submarines to Subway. That original moniker almost sounds like the title of a Beatles song. In 1965, 17-year-old Fred DeLuca borrowed $1,000 from his friend Peter Buck to create a sandwich shop.
What was so compelling then, and still is today about Subway, is really an open kitchen format. In many ways, they really pioneered that and the ability to customize your sandwich.
The business was formerly under a holding company called Doctors Associates Incorporated. It was called this because DeLuca hoped to make funds to finance medical school, while Buck already had a doctorate in physics. Thus, Pete's Super Submarines was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It was later renamed Pete's Subway in 1966, and then Subway in 1968.
DeLuca used radio to promote his business, but he found that Pete's Submarines sounded like Pizza Marines, which confused listeners.
The business soon became profitable as a franchise, with new shops opening up across Connecticut and then across the country, after which it became a household name in sandwiches.
The format is pretty simple. You buy a franchise, you get trained, they help you secure a location, they help with a grand opening, and you're open. You're open for business.
Number 9, the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, to WWE. If you've been a longtime fan of wrestling, you know about this name change.
Through some 50 years, the World Wrestling Federation has been an entertainment mainstay here in North America and all over the world. One of the reasons for that longevity is as the times have changed, so have we.
After a fallout with the National Wrestling Alliance about the World Heavyweight Championship, Vincent J. McMahon and promoter Toots Mondt created the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in the early 60s. It would later be renamed the World Wrestling Federation, or WWF, in 1979. But there was a problem. In the 80s, McMahon's son, the infamous Vincent K. McMahon, successfully took over his dad's sports promotion company, Capital Wrestling Corporation, which was also the WWF's sanctioning body.
You weren't always the owner, were you?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
No. And my dad, actually.
Your dad owned it?
Yeah, my dad owned 50%. He had some other stockholders.
This resulted in the WWF eventually becoming such a household name that it came into contention with a nature NGO called the World Wildlife Fund in the 2000s. Following a lawsuit, the World Wrestling Federation became World Wrestling Entertainment.
World Wrestling Entertainment. Get the F out.
Thanks, I needed that.
Number 8, Blue Ribbon Sports to Nike. If you want to gear up for the next basketball season, Nike shoes are undoubtedly on your radar. But their origins are more humble than you might think.
Yeah, so before Nike was Nike, there was Blue Ribbon Sports. And Blue Ribbon Sports was the first retail space that would sell product directly to runners.
In 1964, track athlete Phil Knight and his coach Bill Bowerman founded Blue Ribbon Sports, distributing Japanese shoes out of the back of the runner's car.
In their first year, BRS sold $8,000 worth of shoes, and with that money, Phil started hiring salesmen for his company.
The blue ribbon was an obvious reference to the ribbons awarded after a competition. Once they started making their own shoes, the two wanted to compete with other big brands and renamed their business after the Greek goddess of victory.
It wasn't until 1971 that the brand was formed as we know it today. The name Nike was adopted at this time as a reference to the Greek goddess of victory.
They hired a designer to make the iconic swoosh, after which they started to climb to the Greek heights that their name implied. Number 7, bourbon to Instagram. Instagram wasn't always the photo-sharing behemoth it is today, and its name change was a significant turn in the application's direction.
Could you ever have dreamed being where you are today back then?
No, I think we started, knowing that we wanted to bring this out to the world, but this is kind of beyond our wildest dreams when we were getting started back then.
Before 2010, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger created Bourbon, a social media application prototype that allowed users to check into select places and businesses, post their plans, and share photos.
Kevin took a leap of faith and decided to quit his job to focus on bourbon. Within only just 2 weeks, he managed to raise $500,000 in seed funding from the venture capitalists he met at the party.
It was all about shared location-based experiences, most often around the niche of bars and alcohol. it didn't perform as well as they had hoped, and was deemed too like another app called Foursquare. So they kept tweaking things, taking what they had learned from bourbon, and conceived a photo-sharing app they called Instagram.
In less than 3 months, 1 million people had joined the open network.
With the name and focus change, they ultimately attracted millions in venture capital, and the rest is, as they say, history. Number 6. Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo to Sony. Be it movies, televisions, or video games, Sony now has its hand in them somewhere. But this massive company had surprisingly humble beginnings. In 1946, Masaru Ibuka opened an electronics shop in Tokyo. Akio Morita joined him, and the two set up the company Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo, or Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation.
A capital of $527 and a 7-man staff. That was in fact all the resources we had with which to launch an enterprise.
They built the country's first tape recorder, and as they looked to expand, they brainstormed a name that they thought would work on the international stage. They considered TTK, Totsuko, and Tokyo Teletech. Eventually, they settled on Sony as a mix of two words. Sonus in Latin, meaning sound, and sunny, which was a loan phrase from English that is used in Japanese to refer to, quote, smart and presentable young men.
The company was still called TTK at this point, but decided to call the radio Sony. After 3 years, the radio was such a success and the name Sony became so popular, they decided to make that the name of the entire company.
Number 5. Facebook to Meta. Since Facebook became a more increasing part of our everyday lives, the company has branched out into different areas.
I think most people still haven't really digested the scale of Facebook or how quickly it's grown.
The goal is obviously to get to ubiquity. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg wants everyone to be on this service.
With the acquisition of Oculus, Instagram, WhatsApp, and more, it's become more than just an organization running a social media website. One of the areas the company's been delving into is the metaverse, online virtual spaces, which is where many see the internet going next, including Facebook.
To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta.
But Facebook's expansion isn't the only reason the parent company changed its name to Meta. Controversies surrounding privacy and data usage around the social networking service may have made the company consider rebranding to distance itself from the trouble.
Facebook whistleblowers now accusing the social media giant of misleading the public and the company's investors. Former product manager Frances Hagen saying that Facebook places profit over safety when it comes to its products.
Number 4, McAfee to Intel Security and back. Everyone has sensitive details, and no one wants them to get into the wrong hands. So, in steps McAfee. The company was founded in 1987 and was bought over by Intel in 2011. Soon after, they renamed the company Intel Security.
And we caught them at a moment when they were reflecting on, do they want to double down and kind of reinvest in this business, or do they want to sell?
But why did they do this? Because its founder, John McAfee, had long taken a step back from the company. He applauded the name change, as he no longer wanted to be associated with the security software. But he was also a bit of a wild card, with his notorious antics and crazy life continuing to make headlines.
McAfee faced criminal accusations while living in Belize. As the story went, his next-door neighbor poisoned his dogs, and McAfee had him killed.
However, following a deal with TPG Capital in 2017, Intel Security formed a new independent company under McAfee, making a return to the original name.
McAfee is one of those businesses that is there to protect us, and it's the mission of the company. We think it's a really important mission, and we're thrilled to be part of it.
Number 3, Brad's drink to Pepsi. Sugary drinks have evolved over the years, but we bet you wouldn't have guessed that Pepsi was originally used as a treatment or relief medicine. In 1893, pharmacist Caleb Bradham invented a drink he simply named Brad's Drink.
It came to be known as Brad's Drink. Not only did it taste great, Bradham claimed the drink would aid digestion, and before long more people wanted the drink than the actual drugs he sold.
He sold the product out of his drugstore, and it was advertised as something that relieved indigestion while not tasting terrible. Since that name didn't roll off the tongue, it was renamed Pepsi Cola in 1898.
In 1903, he opened a warehouse and sold almost 8,000 gallons. The next year, he sold almost 20,000. By 1907, he was selling 100,000 gallons a year.
Why that name, you might ask? The Pepsi part referred to the condition dyspepsia, or indigestion, and cola for its cola flavor. After it rose in popularity against rival Coca-Cola, it soon became the Pepsi we all know and love. Number 2. Cadabra to Amazon. When Jeff Bezos built his online marketplace, the idea was that you could order books online and the item would arrive at your door, quote, like magic. So from 1994 to 95, his company was named Cadabra Inc. in reference to the word abracadabra.
The company was originally called Cadabra, like the magic term abracadabra.
However, his then lawyer advised that it was, quote, too obscure and that it might be mistaken for cadaver. So Bezos started registering domain names. Awake.com, Browse.com, Bookmall.com, even Relentless.com. Eventually, Bezos turned to the dictionary, where he came across the name of the world's largest river, which gave birth to the idea Amazon.
Amazon.com. Very good website. You should really try it.
Of course, Amazon doesn't only sell books today, and neither is it the only e-commerce company to go through fine-tuning. Auction site eBay was once Auction Web.
The drops never stop. eBay. Authenticity guaranteed.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions. Aunt Jemima to Pearl Milling Company. Rebranded to, quote, make progress toward racial equality.
Quaker announcing it is scrapping the brand. In a statement saying, we recognize Aunt Jemima's origins are based on a racial stereotype.
Totem Stores to 7-Eleven. Replaced to mirror their new opening hours.
To reflect the store's extended hours, the shops were renamed 7-Eleven.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Backrub to Google. This one may seem almost comical, but Backrub was the name of the world's premier search engine before they registered the Google.com domain in 1997 and incorporated Google the company the next year. It started as a research project at Stanford University in California, where Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and unofficial third founder Scott Hassan began exploring how web pages were linked to certain pages. Since the project heavily relied on backlinks, the project was nicknamed Backrub. The project operated on Stanford servers until it grew too big for them to handle, with Hassan leaving the project around this time as well. As they expanded, Page and Brin brainstormed different possible names.
The guys were looking for a great name that was going to capture the grandiose vision that they had and hit upon this giant number, one with 100 zeros after it, commonly known as Google.
Googleplex was suggested by fellow Stanford student Sean Anderson, referencing a sequence of zeros and a 1 in code. Page shortened it to Google, spelled Googol, but a serendipitous typo during domain researching led to google.com, which the founders ended up liking even more.
I remember this day, the first search I did on Google was dramatically better than all the search that I had tried previous to that.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.